Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Empowered Hearts podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Welcome, April Stroink. Hello, April.
Hi.
Welcome, April.
April is the Chief Financial Officer of the Money Fix Institute. And we have April on today to talk about money, but not from the lens probably that most people do. April has got a background in money very, let's say, structurally, but took a different route and has also learned the energetics of money and is going to be sharing that with us today. And also has a really unique way of helping people who are neurodivergent manage and understand money and also to end poverty for entrepreneurs. So, yeah, welcome, April. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to dig into you, your story, and just everything that you offer and teach people.
Thank
I'm so
you.
excited too.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So April, how on earth did you end up being the CEO or excuse me, the CFO of the Money Fix Institute? Like, how did this story come up in your life?
It was a long journey to be landing here. Um, I took my finance degree, and then 2 days later, after I graduated, I took off to Europe to meet with my cousin. Thought I was only going to be there for the summer with her, and ended up being there for 2.5 years, and came back and really, and I'm so glad that I did that because I didn't have any responsibilities at that time. And then I came back and I landed a really great job with a national financial company and was climbing the ranks there. And of course, just leading the path that we've all been taught is how we should. And had two daughters. And when they were in school, or starting school, was really coincided with where my career started to ramp up.
Mm.
And, I really thought that's where I wanted to be in corporate, running the investment division. And it was soul sucking. And
Mm.
I remember getting a call from my daughter's primary teacher saying that she was crying because I was never home. And I thought, there's no way they would have ever called a man and had that conversation. But it really sort of set me back of, am I in alignment with my values? And I have this one precious life. And is this really how I want to be spending it, which is away from my children? And
Mm.
so I started to dig really deep about, I was making really good income. And why couldn't I step back from this? And so I really started to say, I want to do something different. I don't want to be climbing the corporate ladder anymore. Um, I want to be home with my kids. And so I took a look at how I was spending my money, and it wasn't in alignment with those core values at all. I was spending a lot of money at the spa, spending a lot on clothes, spending a lot on shoes, spending a lot on golf clubs. I don't even like to golf. But it was like that whole sort of persona that I was supposed to be in this role. And I just decided, well, you know what? I'm going to quit on this day. And so I had 6 months to prepare that. And I'm like, I want to save up enough money to be able to take 6 months off. And so
Mm.
really dug deep into where was I spending my money and really cut out the things that, like I said, were not in alignment. Started a side hustle at that time as well about helping people with their finances. And then lo and behold, within 6 months, or I think it was, yeah, 6 months, 3 months, I can't remember, I had saved $60,000 that I could take the time away.
Wow.
And honestly, that was just on cutting out a lot of things that I didn't need to be doing. And so flash forward, I took 2 years off actually to be with my girls. And during that time, I didn't find that I felt like for my girls, I wanted to role model purpose for them as well. And I felt like for me, I applaud every woman who wants to work at home. It wasn't something that I found was really actually fulfilling for me. I wanted to be there, but so I really wanted to create my own hours. And so, in the meantime, my husband and I owned a outdoor business, retail business together. And so, I had found that when I stepped into that role, my story, and I have a lot of shame around this as well, is that we had hired a bookkeeper and we had sort of taken our hands off the wheel, and that person had misrepresented their skills. And so we had almost lost everything as a result of that. Um, and I just knew that I wanted to get back into financial services, but I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to help business owners because I knew, hey, if I'm versed in finance and this happened to me, this
Mm.
can obviously happen to others. And I actually said to myself that if there was one good thing to come out of that time, it was to tell my story to others in hopes that what happened to them didn't happen to me. And I knew I didn't want to go back into the corporate side of things. So I really started to double
Mhm.
down on learning about behavioral finance. So I had great education around, like you were saying, Morgan, the mechanics of how money works. I was trained classically, if you will, as a financial advisor, helping people to get to retirement, making sure they had their proper insurances in place. But we never address this. I make a really good income, but I still feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And
Mhm.
so start to really understand those money behaviors, and then start at the Money Fix Institute with personal and business programs around teaching how the mechanics of money work, but also how your money behaviors work. And when you can couple the two of them together, like I did in leaving corporate, that's where you really start to see your money start to work for you. And so developing systems that work with your behaviors as human beings, as opposed to budgets, which work against all human behaviors, because budgets are based on economic theory that states that agents, otherwise known as human beings, will act rationally with their money 100% of the time. I have helped thousands of people. I've yet to meet said person who acts rational with their money 100% of the time, nor do I. So we need to work with how our money behaviors work.
Mm.
Wow. I love that. It's so inspiring. Like when you look at your life at that moment, when you have like a pivotal moment, like when the teacher called and you're like, is this like for my highest good, you know?
Hmm.
Right? It really gets you thinking like redirection. And I think it's so inspiring that you're like, okay, you know what? This is not. I love that.
So, April, what are money behaviors? Like the first thing that comes to my mind is overspending or irrational spending, but could you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the four pillars of good financial well-being are how you earn, because we need to be earning. We need to have earnings. So if we're employed, we need to be earning. If we're self-employed, we need to have sales. We need to have cash coming into our business. How we spend our money. So just like you said, Morgan, but also how we save and how we invest. So those four pillars, if we talk about the mechanics of how to get ahead with our money, those are the four pillars. And our money behaviors impact every single one of them. And so you could be a really good earner, but don't feel that you're worthy of what you earn, and therefore you spend everything. You could be a really good saver, but you don't feel worthy for earning, and so you never get yourself ahead. You
Mm.
could be a really good saver, but you don't have the confidence to invest, so you never get yourself ahead. So how our behaviors are towards our money will impact all four of those. And so I have seen business owners and individuals that are high income earners and completely sabotage their success by spending and overspending. I have seen people who are extremely successful and should be high income earners, but they won't charge what they're worth. And so all of those behaviors that we have impact those four pillars.
Mm.
Wow. So
Yeah.
okay, so I've done a little bit of understanding the energetics of money with some mentors, but I've never really dove into it. How do I don't know if there's a simple answer to this, but how do we, as entrepreneurs, or as even people who are, an employee, base their quote unquote worth to match a dollar sign?
Yeah.
How do you figure that out? Because I've done it the nervous system testing. It's like you say a number and you're like, can I hold that or can I not hold that? Right? And that's how what I've learned that, like I said, I've learned a very little amount.
Mhm. Well, money doesn't equal math. It is emotional,
Hmm.
and numbers are black and white. And so that's why you really need to know your numbers so that you can check it with the energetics of money. So, what I mean by that, let's unpack that a little bit. So, let's take an entrepreneur, for example. So, if I were to ask you as an entrepreneur, what is your why for what it is that you do? We've done a lot of work on that, and we can really talk about our why, our community, our purpose. But a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about their financial why. And so you need to be making money and you need to be profitable in order to support your community. And
Make
so, in order to do that, you really need to work backwards when it comes to your pricing, for example, on what is it that April needs to be getting from this business financially. So, I have a program that you go through and you identify your financial why. And we do this by taking a look at your committed, or what I would call your non-discretionary or non-emotional spending. And then we take a look at your emotional spending. And we actually have an analyst on staff that pours through 4 months worth of your spending line by line on your credit cards, your lines of credit, your bank accounts. And we know those behavioral traps and we'll see where it is that you land based on your behaviors. From there, we calculate your financial why. So maybe it's that your business has to be paying you a salary or dividend or draw of $10,000 a month after taxes in order to support your personal financial goals and dreams. And then
Hmm.
from there, we reverse engineer it into the business to say, if we need to be paying you 10,000 and your expenses are this, well, then we have to get this price at this margin in order for you to support your financial why. So we take a look at it very from a mechanical side of saying, okay, these are the numbers and that's what it is in black and white. And then it's up to you on the behavioral side to provide that value to your clients.
Hmm.
So
I-
from there, we really then take a look at, okay, what is the value that you know, and getting through of how that comes to be inside of your business. But we give you the number of what is your financial why. Similarly, with if you're an employee, you know, you kind of know when you are being shafted for work, lack of a better word, when it comes to what you're doing inside of your business, what you're doing for somebody else's business. And
Yeah.
it really is that stepping into your worth. I mean, when I was in corporate, I was the regional manager, and I had people under me that were all men. And we were hiring for a senior position on my team that, again, I was his direct report, and they wanted to pay him more money. And I'm like, I'm
Mm,
managing him. He's reporting to me, and you want to offer him more than I'm getting currently paid? No freaking way that's happening.
yep.
And really stepping into that power as well. And I think for women, I mean, we still have a wage discrepancy, and we
Mhm.
really need to understand what we're worth and really stepping into that power. But for me, it goes beyond the energetics of that, and taking the emotion out of it and standing in the power of this is black and white. This is what I need to
Yeah.
be coming and becoming into my household. And if you, I can't work for you if I'm coming in every day, not showing up as my best self, because I can't actually have the life that I want to live on the salary is that you're providing for me. And
That's
I
huge.
and I know
Yeah.
that not easy to do. And like for me, what I had to anchor that in, because I mean, I had the mechanics of this is what my business needs to be doing, this is what I need to be charging, but still having those money behaviors coming up of going, oh, are you worth that? You know,
Mhm.
going above and
Mhm.
beyond and not charging what I was worth. And for
Yeah.
me, I had to anchor it for my girls because I have big goals for my girls. And in order for them to reach those goals, I need to fund their RESPs. I need to be able to support them in their activities so that they can reach for the moon and the stars. And that takes money. So, in order for that to happen, I really had to anchor in that this is the life I want to provide for my girls. And so, in order to do that, this is what I need to charge. And then it's up to me to provide the value for my clients that they see the
Right.
results and the impact. But for whatever it is for you that you need to anchor it, you need to have that anchor, but then you need to have that numbers to step into your power.
It's a really, really big self-worth piece, isn't it? It's like understanding what value you bring to the table and being like, I will not stand for anything less than this.
Exactly.
That's huge. That is a huge light bulb moment for me, for
And it's
sure.
and like this is almost as well as relationships, right? It's
Yep.
like it's the same thing. It's like this is who I am, this is what I expect in a relationship, and you find that vibrational match. It just is what
Mhm.
it is. Like you don't accept anything less. And it's like the clients and the money and the, let's say, relationships, they do come when you stand in your worth. Like it
Yeah.
is what it is,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I say, you know, if money wasn't a reason for staying, what would you leave? And there's so many women in particular that are staying in jobs that are toxic, but they feel they can't leave because of the money,
Yeah.
staying in relationships that are unhealthy because they feel they have to stay for the money.
Hmm.
And that's what our program does. Like, I have helped many women who are in relationships that they want to leave but feel that they can't. And then we show them, okay, well, this is your financial why. This is what you need. And a lot of times when we align your values with how you spend your money, it's living in abundance doesn't necessarily have to equate to what is your net income or your worth. So your net worth. And I think we've really mixed that up um, in today's society. And I think if we really truly stand in our values and what it is that we truly believe in to have a good life, it's not really the things that we're all told about on TikTok
Yeah.
and Instagram and everything else. And you know, today in Canada is election day, and we get to vote once every 4 years, but you get to vote every single day for the world you want to live in. If you don't want to live in a world where people are exploited, don't buy stuff from companies that exploit people. If you don't want to live in an environment that's polluted, don't buy from companies that pollute the environment. Like we have a big voice with how we spend our money.
So true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's, I would love if you could share on your opinion on abundance because yes, that word is, used. It's used very all over the place for probably many different reasons. And what do you believe, true wealth and abundance is?
Well, it is very individual. It is what I believe is an abundant life might be completely different than what Krystle believes in and what Morgan believes in. And I like to live in excess, which is abundance on steroids. Because when I live in excess, it means that I have enough for myself and my family and that I can give freely to others. And
Yeah.
so for me, giving freely to others, I get more. It's selfish because I get more back than what I give in when I'm living in excess. And so for me, you'll see this painting on the back here.
I
And
was I
uh,
was noticing that.
so
It's
I wanted to
beautiful.
own this piece of property and I wanted my business to buy this piece of property for me. And when we switched to going online during COVID, I had a client that I commissioned to paint this. And so I look at it every single day when I'm on Zoom. And also, I know what I needed to do to be able to afford it. And so 3 years ago, we bought the property, and
Wow.
I've hosted 5 retreats there so far on around money. And this is abundance for me. I
Hmm.
want to live there. I want that to be a space for my children and maybe grandchildren. It's right on the Bay of Fundy, and it's very apropos because the highest tides in the world. So every 6 hours, you have millions of liters of water that go out and then come back in. And it just reminds me of money because money is from cash or currency from current, and it's meant to flow. It's not meant to be, we all want to just grab it and hold on to it, and it's mine and it's not yours. And that's not how it was supposed to be. It's supposed to flow from current to flow. And so I feel like if we're in this place of abundance or excess, the money is flowing. It's flowing freely to you and to me, and it's energetic of, if you appreciate my services, you pay me money for it. It's that energy exchange. And so for me, abundance is living in this place where I can freely give my time or my resources to others. It's about being here. I can't see myself traveling a lot more from there. It's about having a place for my children to come to. It's about having a space for community and that I can share with others. And so that's what abundance is to me. I'm not a car person. That's not my thing, but it might be yours. I'm not a big clothing person. I like classic things that I can wear forever, which also helps me keep my physical in shape as well. Like eating healthy foods, being
Hmm.
outside. That's what abundance is to me. But that may not be what it is for others. And so it's really in our program, we really get to getting back to those values and what is important to you. And you know what? It's really interesting because, like I said, I've worked with thousands of people and guiding them to financial ease. And I don't think I've ever has been, I want 3 houses and I want 6 cars. It's all been the very first question that we ask our clients is, what does financial freedom mean to you? And it's always like 99% of the time, it's having the time to do what I want
Yeah.
whenever I want with the people I want to do it with for as long as I possibly can. It is always some iteration of that when it comes to financial freedom and abundance.
Mhm.
So true. It's like quality of life. It's quality.
Having
Absolutely,
quality of
which
life.
is why I left corporate. Like the
Yeah.
quality of
Yeah.
just wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my daughter, who's now 20, told me last year, Mom, because I had the tailored suits and I bought a cherry red Vespa with chrome on it, and I would ride that with my high heel shoes down. And she's like, "We just thought you were so cool, Mom. We thought that was so
I
cool."
love
I'm
that.
like, I gave that all up to be with you guys. And they're like, yeah, but that was when you were at your coolest. So
Oh, I love
there
that.
you go. But
I love that.
yeah, I would never have saw them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really, yeah, having, I think so many people don't even get the chance to even know what quality time freedom is, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I was speaking to a friend this morning and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm in bed." And it was like 8:30 and she's like, "Must be nice." And I was like, "Well, you could have you can take the day off." And she's like, well, life isn't that simple." And I was like, "Okay, there's a mindset block there and that's okay."
Yep.
But so many people just don't even believe that it's possible or even not even believe, but like it's not even a thought. It's just like people, we take so many things, these systems of like at face value. We don't question enough, and
Yeah.
I'm notorious for pushing against life. Like I've been like that since I was a kid. And so I very much do call it like the Matrix. Like I'm into that lingo. And it can pull you. I find it will pull me in my mind. I like sometimes I'll deal with personal guilt of like, well, I should be up at this time and I should be doing this. And I'm like, this is programming you need to let
Hmm.
go of because it is like I'm like, well, what is, a billionaire doing right now? Probably not thinking about this. and I mean, that's just an example, but it's the everything is in the mind. It's the mindset of like, if you think it's possible, then it is, right?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
learning and then understanding the avenues of how to get there. But it's
That's right.
first having the belief or
Hmm.
questioning, do I need to be doing this? Like, who said I need to get up and do this and this, right? I think you and I
Yep.
discussed this on when I first talked to you. The school system is we are indoctrinated to learn how to be 9 to 5ers by going to school 8 to 4. It's
Hmm.
like getting
Hmm.
ingrained in us, be a good worker. And I mean, that system was built for corporations to
Hmm.
profit the most. It was not for the people, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm sure you know this, and I don't know, Krystle, if you do, but there's studies shown that like the amount of work that people get done in 8 hours during for corporations is you don't get very much done. Like it's like this stretched out amount of time. If you sat and did the work, you could probably get it done in a couple of hours. Like people are
Yeah.
not grinding, but it's just
Yep.
become this way of life now. Like,
Yep.
I was talking to somebody the other day and she's an accountant. She's like, she's in complete burnout. She went blind from being an accountant, from being in burnout.
Hmm.
And her body was rejecting. She can't look at a computer screen now. Her eyes will literally, her body rejects it because of the 14-hour days, day in, day out for 20 years. And it's
Yep.
like, that's not quality of life.
Yeah.
Well, but it's how we're taught that to make money,
Yeah.
right? And so it all, money, like it or hate it, it flows through everything that we do.
Yeah.
And we put just so much emphasis on it. I mean, look at the world. Greed has led to complete destruction of, again, of our values because we've put so much emphasis on it. And this just desire for more and more and more. And you're right. We've just been designed. I remember when my daughter went to primary and just letting her go, and she's in line in a lineup to go in. And I'm just like, this is so unnatural. A 5-year-old shouldn't be
Yeah.
lining up. They can't line up. They can't sit still at their desks. It's not natural for them to
Yeah.
have this, but that is how we're programmed, and we're also programmed that we work the 9 to 5 in order to get a paycheck and be thankful for that paycheck, and then, like I said, not live this abundant life. But we're
Yep.
also taught financial education from those institutions that profit from our ignorance. And so, when interest rates were really, really low, we were all fed this steady, high high sugar, white bread, full gluten diet of cheap money, and we all took it. And then when interest rates started to creep up again, then everybody had complete meltdowns because they'd over leveraged themselves. And
Hmm.
so, it's really about taking back our power when it comes to our time,
Yeah.
taking back our power when it comes to our money, and really, again, about educating ourselves, both on the mechanics of how money comes in and out of our homes, and also our behaviors and how that impacts it. And like I said, when we can harness those two together, that's when we start to see our money works for us versus us continuously working for our money.
That's huge right there.
So the
What would
best
be,
way you can do that,
hmm,
especially if you are neurodivergent, is to have systems in place. And we use, again, we calculate your weekly spendable number. We don't believe in budgets because we know budgets don't work. And so we have a weekly number based on your income and based on your non-discretionary or committed expenses. And so you just keep to that weekly spendable number every single week. And so my husband and I have been doing this since 2017. We've been together since second year of university, and the one thing that we always argue about is money. We pretty much see eye to eye about everything else, and that's in line with most Canadian couples.
Hmm.
Money stress is the number one reason for relationship breakdown in this country. And so we just have a weekly number that we spend on all our behavioral. So that's eating at restaurants, takeout coffees, entertainment, It's groceries, because groceries now are very behavioral because we shop at these big box stores now. It's on uh, gifts to others, travel. And so if we can keep to this number every single week, then everything else in the background, as far as our investments, paying down debt, it all falls into place. And this has been really important for my husband and I because my husband has ADHD. He was diagnosed when he was in grade 4. He also has a learning disability around numeracy. And so for him, he just can't understand credit cards. Like you just put a credit card down and you get what it is that you want, but paying for it is another thing, right? So you get the
Yeah.
dopamine hit of buying it, but then paying for it is something else.
Mm.
We know from our studies on behavioral finance that you'll spend 25% more than you intend with a credit card or tap or Apple Pay because your brain just in that moment can't do the mental math. And as much as we study behavioral finance, big retailers like Amazon, I mean, Jeff Bezos paid millions of dollars for the one-click system because he studied abandoned carts. And why do people abandon carts? Well, because of the behavioral impulse. So if you can take that away, you make more money. So when we do this on a weekly basis, what we've done in our household is we've switched to cash. We are a cash only family since 2017. And that really
Mm.
supports my husband because he can physically see the money going out of his wallet. And so he knows how much he has left to spend. Whereas with a credit card or Apple Pay or tap all over the place. And before you know it, you're way over your weekly spendable.
Yeah.
So we've been cash since 2017. During COVID, of course, we couldn't use cash. And we were probably the only family in Canada that spent more during COVID than before because we were back to credit cards and just mental math couldn't do it. And so every Friday, he goes and goes to the ATM, gets out our weekly spend, and he keeps it in the black from Friday to Friday. And he's in charge of our behavioral spending. And I'm telling you, before that, I was a perpetual spreadsheeter, and I had like alerts on my phone that if he was at Starbucks, that I would get an alert, and then you just spent $7. That was no way for a relationship to flourish. He's the spender, I'm the saver. None of it was fun. We weren't living in abundance and we weren't living in financial freedom. Having this system in place where as long as that's being kept going, the weekly spendable, I know that, like I said, everything else is happening in the background. So it empowers him. It takes something else off of my plate. We have really great conversations around the spendable. He's absolutely rocking it. He has that system in place that supports him around cash. And we've taught this to our daughters as well. So as I said, one is 20, she's in university now. She's self-contained. I'm not sending money to her. She's able to manage herself. And so I think that, we have to have this education. We have to have the systems in place, but they have to be systems that support our behaviors because we
Yeah.
are who we are. And anybody who asks you to completely change your behaviors, whether it's money or food or exercise or what have you, it's just not going to work because it's just not who you are as a human being. So you need those money systems that support your behaviors.
I really love that because instead of like restricting your life, which nobody likes restriction, like you said, like diet, here's a budget, now you got to live in this. It's like you adjust your wealth to who you are, and that just feels so supportive
That's the thing.
for
Like
me.
Krystle, I have a 30-day transformation where people try it. I do encourage people to switch to cash. And they come back and they said, that was fun. Like I felt like I
Yeah.
lived in abundance. And I'm like, guess what? Before that system, you were spending $2,000 a month in the same categories. And they're like, what was I even spending my money on?
Yeah.
Like I'm living in abundance and I'm happy. And you're telling me I was spending $2,000 more and I was unhappy because I had no sweet clue of where my money was going.
That's crazy. But and it also feels like holding cash feels empowering, doesn't it? Like having cash and paying cash for everything. Because you
Hmm.
feel like you are in abundance, you're not in debt. It's like every time I see the notification on my phone for my credit card, it's like that's more debt. That's how I feel. It doesn't
Hmm.
feel good to
Hmm.
see that, right? And so I love this cash. I'm switching to cash.
Switch to cash for 30 days and
I love
just
this.
start to note. And I mean, I can send you the coaching questions every week, is when
I love
you
this.
really start to say, okay, yeah, I'm really feeling like I'm living more in control.
Yeah,
Jason, my partner,
I love
does not have a
this.
credit card. He's
Yeah.
like, he was, he's born in Macedonia, lived very, very European, like very poor, and came here. And so their family made everything from scratch, their business. And so he doesn't understand credit cards. He understands you buy it if you have it. Like that's his mentality is very like, you pay cash for things and you buy the things that you can afford with the money you have. And then you save money and then you invest money. And I'm like, I need to take a page out of you. In the beginning, I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, I was like, this is crazy. And then I'm like, wait a second. And then I was like, he has no debt. His house is paid off in cash. Like
Mhm.
everything is, he only uses cash. If he doesn't have the cash, he doesn't buy it. And like, it's just his way of life. And maybe that's extreme, but I've taken a page out of his book. I'm like, okay. And then I also listen to you and look through some of your stuff. And it just refreshed what I'd already known. It's fascinating. That you know, some people we're taught just use credit cards for everything. Like it's fine.
hmm
And
hmm
yeah, I would love if could you share with us a little bit about debt? Like how could we maybe help somebody who's listening with their debt or have a mindset around debt or getting out of debt?
Absolutely. So it's really interesting, right? Because on one hand, we're encouraged by financial institutions to take on more debt,
Hmm.
and then we're shamed because we have debt.
hmm
So you can't win. Um, One of the things that well, first of all, let's talk about debt, because there's good debt and there is bad debt. And so when we talk about bad debt, that is the consumer debt that most Canadians have. Like if we take a look at, for every dollar of disposable income coming into the average Canadian family, and that means after all of your committed expenses, what you have left over, on average, Canadians are servicing $1.76 of debt. So it doesn't take an advanced degree in mathematics to realize that for every dollar of disposable income, you're servicing $1.76 in debt, that most Canadians are underwater when it comes to debt. Now, a lot of that is mortgage, but there's a third of that is consumer debt. So that's going and purchasing cars and vacations and big screen TVs and Apple phones and what have you. And so that's what we would call bad debt, if you will. And it needs to be, if it's over 7%, we go by the rule of seven, you really have to eradicate that. Good debt is when you invest in yourself, or you invest in anything that's going to, an asset that's going to increase in value. So anything that's equity, so buying property, putting money into the markets and investing, educating yourself. Those are all things that, again, we like to see for every dollar that you borrow, that you're seeing a $5 return on that. But that debt, again, that anything that's over 7%, we really need to eradicate. And sort of our knee-jerk reaction when it comes to eradicating debt is that any extra money that I get, I'm going to throw on the debt. And what happens when we do that is, let's say it's tax time. In 2 days, we're going to need to be putting in filing our taxes. And let's say you get a tax return. And so you get a tax return of $9,000. And so our first instinct, if we have debt, is I'm going to throw that whole $9,000 onto my debt. And so you feel good about that for a little while. But you haven't done anything to talk about your money behaviors. And so lo and behold, in a few months, that debt completely creeps up on you again. And all of a sudden you have $9,000 worth of debt again. And your brain basically goes, F it, I'm never going to get myself out of this. Let's book a trip to Cancun. And so you just have this continuous spiral. But what I prescribe to my clients is that when you do get a windfall, run it through what we call the wealth wheel. A third of it goes to the past, a third of it goes to the present, and a third of it goes to the future. So
Mm,
9,000, 3,000 of that goes on to the debt. 3,000 of it goes into a vacation fund. And then 3,000 of it goes into your RRSPs or your TFSA or a savings account. And so
Love
what
that.
that does is it gives you that reward or that dopamine hit of I've put away. If something comes up, I have the money there, and I can also reward myself of going for a vacation or what have you. And so, what you want to do is then, when something comes up, you have the money to available to you versus reaching out for that credit card again.
Right.
But then you want to incrementally increase. And I subscribe to the snowball method that you find some extra money on a consistent basis and you start to put that on your lowest balance and you start chipping away at that. And then once that's paid off, you celebrate not by going on a trip to Cancun, but just celebrate. Maybe it's going and getting a latte, and then you put that full amount onto the next lowest debt, and then so
Okay.
on and so on until it's completely eradicated. The reason being is that you'll get gains quicker versus if you have a $30,000 student loan and you're putting an extra $200 on it, you never see that go down. Whereas
Right.
if $1,000 on a credit card and 200, you could have that paid off in 5 months or less. And then you feel you have that dopamine transfer. And psychologically, we feel a loss 2 times more than we feel a gain. So that's why when you lose $5 on the ground, you feel worse than if you actually found $5. So once you start to get
Mm.
that debt eradicated, it becomes a gain. And that dopamine now becomes much more than of eradicating that debt that you don't want to go out and buy things to put on the debt again because you're getting that, you're seeing that your debt is starting to be eradicated. And so we prescribe to those two methods. And then what I have found is that clients have gotten so much further ahead by
Hmm.
having that system in place because we're all combating Parkinson's law. And what Parkinson's law states is that if you have a month to do something, it'll take you a month. If you have a week to do something, you'll do it in a week. And it's the same with our money. If our money is there and it's not given a job, it will just go wherever flows, like the Bay of Fundy, wherever it wants to. But once you start giving your money the job of eradicating debt, saving for the future, like Morgan, like your boyfriend of pre-saving for a vacation. Once you start giving it those jobs, you'll actually start to live more in this place of abundance because you will make do. You always will with what you have.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
Parkinson's law. We live with it every single day. And
Hmm.
so we have to create these
So true.
systems in order for our money to work for us.
I love that.
So, April, do you also help people with investments? I'm asking
I,
myself now
yes.
and for
So
other people listening.
I am licensed. Um, I have not been doing that work for 7 years. And the reason why is because it's not my jam. I ran the investment department, like I said, for 4 years. It's the reason why I got out of it because it wasn't that part of the business didn't interest me. And I feel if you're working with an investment advisor, they have to be very well educated. They have to be really passionate about it, and they have to have the knowledge around portfolios, and they have to be looking at it on more of a regular basis than I was interested in. So I felt that I was doing a disservice to my clients by helping them with their investments. So I actually have an advisor that I work with, and she invests everything for me. But I do like to dabble on platforms like Simple with my play money, not my retirement money. Simple and Quest Trade, they have like really great educational platforms. But if it's not your jam and it's not what you do on a daily basis, let a professional handle that.
Yeah.
I have a real You may want to cut this part of the show, but I just have a real beef around, we are a very, very heavily regulated industry. Our governing body does not allow us to say things on our websites or on our social media. And then we have others that have just come on the scene that don't have the kind of education that a regulated advisor has. And they're able to give these big promises and say things on social media that, quite frankly, are dangerous.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow,
Yep. Yep.
amazing. So, April, how can people work with you? If you could just share a little bit about different ways that people can work with you and different ways you can help.
Absolutely. So for individuals, we have our signature Money Fix personal program. It is a 9-month intensive program where we take a look at your spending habits and we build you a spending plan based upon your spending habits. We calculate your weekly spendable to keep all of your other goals, to help you reach your other financial goals. And it's good old-fashioned accountability and hand-holding. We also have the money clinic that we go into workplaces and we teach employees as part of their wellness programs around
Mm.
financial well-being. And honestly, if you have a workplace that is not offering financial wellness as part of its overall benefit package, it's a real disservice to your employees because it is the number one stress. I'm actually meeting with
Mhm.
a sleep expert next week because she's saying it's the number one reasons for clients aren't sleeping is because of money stress.
Yeah,
And
I
then
believe
we
it.
and then we have our business program called the Money Fix for Business. And we take entrepreneurs through the Money Fix Personal because let's face it, as small business owners, your personal money and your business money is one and the same. And you can't tell me that you have one behavior as an individual and then you have a completely different behavior as a business owner. I've been doing this for 25 years. I know that's not true. So we start with your personal financial why, and then we build cash flow systems in your business to make sure you're paying yourself, that you're profitable, that you've got money tucked aside for your taxes, and that you're managing your expenses. So those are our two signature programs, as well as the group program that we do for employees.
Wow. Well, we will definitely link that in the show notes for anybody listening. And April, we're going to ask you a question. It's we ask all of our guests this, and I just want you to speak from your heart. So, what for you does it mean to have an empowered heart?
For me, it's giving back to others.
Oh,
Mm.
I feel very strongly that we were put on this earth to live in community, not to live in silos.
Yeah.
And that when we support each other, that's how we can move ourselves forward. So, feeling really emotional today,
Oh, I feel that.
because phew, there's a
It's
lot
okay.
that's riding today.
welcome here.
And I think that this
Yeah.
election in particular, I've seen things happen I never thought I'd see happen in this country.
Yeah.
And there's so much hatred, and I don't
Yeah.
understand why.
I know.
And
I
so we need to learn to love one another and come
hmm
from a place of unconditional love in
hmm
everything we do.
Unity. Amen.
That's beautiful, April.
It
Thank
is
you.
so beautiful. I agree like 100,000% with what you just said.
Well, thank you for giving me the space to do that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All is welcome here.
Thank
I
you.
think it's really important to share these things and to share, especially from women who are established or who have, like yourself, who have gone against the grain and how you live through your heart to share and to showcase for others that it's possible and to help others know that, give them the strength to chase their dreams and to know that their dreams are not just an idea. So thank you for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, we will see you next episode and thank you so much.
Awesome.
Bye.